Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Monday Mornings with Cody. It is what it is. Podcast, the hottest podcast on the planet. Look, subscribe on YouTube at CVMK, Instagram CVMK33, CVMK_global, and it is what it is _show. You got to go there where the best supplements are, www.cvmkglobal.store. Like, share, subscribe, and comment if you will. We have an amazing show. I have to cover, unfortunately, it seems like the stagnant decline of the Lakers. I don't know why the Nuggets are doing this to me. Obviously, we lost a legend in Jim Brown. I want to cover that. And I was not going to touch this. I was going to let it just go. But I have to discuss expectations. Very amazing, interesting viral moment of would you date a bus driver. I got to touch upon it. And of course, I want to touch upon the student loan because, you know, as a political science major like myself, I always have interest in politics and just want to hear your thoughts. But before we go any further, just a word from our sponsors.
There's a hero in all of us waiting to be unleashed. All it takes is just that one last push. Activate the hero within with CVMK Global Supplements. All natural, steroid-free, designed to enhance performance, build muscle, and increase energy. You are unstoppable. You can do this. Become your own hero at www.cvmkglobal.store.
All right, y'all, www.cvmkglobal.store where the best supplements are. Get your vegan protein today. Pre-workouts, Transform, Superpower, Warrior, Thirst, Saucy, all the above, and the super thick creatine, www.cvmkglobal.store. All right, I want to get into it because I really wanted this to be informative. I'm going to take it from the beginning. This has hurt my heart watching these last two playoff performances, and hopefully by the time this airs, the Lakers will have a win underneath their belt. But I'm really starting to get worried, and I had to ask the question: is it over for LeBron and the Lakers? They just seem very tired, very fatigued. Denver seems bigger, stronger, faster in almost every position, more skilled, more physical, more polished. It just seems like it's coming to an end. But because you have the golden LeBron, you have AD, there's always hope. But I got to play this clip because Dwight Howard has been clowning. And I guess he's taking shots because, you know, they criticized him when he went to Taiwan. They said his career was over. It was done for him. And since he's been in Taiwan, he's been putting up these unrealistic numbers because he's not playing against, obviously, NBA talent. But he's been calling athletes to come over and join him because he feels like it's time for them too. So just enjoy this little viral clip and we'll discuss.
Tell LeBron to come on over. Let me go. LeBron. 0-2. I know you the king. You the GOAT. Why not come to Taiwan for one game, my boy? You done did everything in the NBA, my boy. You, AD. You can play till 60 over here. You can play till 90 over here, bro. 90, my boy. You can play till 90.
Okay, that little "you can play to 90" comment is a little excessive. And then my boy and all that, you know, just very, very Dwight of him. But it's all good. You know, I don't have anything negative to say about that, you know, kind of depiction. And I understand the call, the clarion call. Every athlete will hit a point in their career where they just can no longer continue to perform on that level. They're still dynamic, still great. You saw it with Ali. You saw it with Michael Jordan. You saw it with Kobe Bryant. You've seen it with T-Mac. You've seen it with Vince. But I don't think we're there yet. And maybe this is just hoping against hope. I really think it's LeBron's year. I understand the fascination with, hey, look, you know, you're 38. You've been in the league 20 years. You've done everything you're going to do. The legacy cemented. Time to move on and restructure. But if he can do it, this is the year. I think after this, then you have to decide. I don't see year 21 being as successful as 20. I don't see year 22 only because eventually, even if, you stay the greatest shape or whatever, eventually the game becomes too fast. The points have already diminished. You're going from 28 to 22 to 24. The minutes will start to diminish, and then it will be about, load management and trying to preserve for the playoffs. And then you'll basically become the designated hitter. And, that's a very, to me, dangerous position to be in as a star athlete. I do think this year and next year are the last 2 years that he will be at the LeBron mantle where everybody else kind of has to come in at the door, right? But for right now, Dwight, we're just not there yet. It is entertaining, but I don't think it's time for him to go to Taiwan. Personally, if he went to Taiwan, he would probably average an insane amount of assists and points and rebounds. And then that's, then what does that say to the other athletes that are over there? That they're lesser talent, So I don't think so. And I don't personally think it's time for that move. All right, let's look at the box score. Let's break it down. This is where the sweet science of it all kind of happens. If you look at game 2, losing by 5, it's really not pointing to anyone's fault. You can't say I demand more out of the bench. Rui Hachimura gave you 21. Austin Reeves gave you 22. D'Angelo gave you 10. You can say, well, if he would have had 5 more, 15 points, you just would have tied it. The problem is, and this is where Dwight might have a point, when you can no longer get 30 and potentially 40, and on a hot night 50, you can't push through. You give LeBron 10 more points, they win, right? They win by 5. Forget whatever Anthony Davis does. He had 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 blocks, 1 steal. He was minus 10, though, and a plus minus. But, whatever AD does is still hinged upon LeBron James. When you're able to get to 30 and to 40 and to take it to the next level, that Jason Tatum level, you're able to push through the talents and the schemes that Denver has. When you can only really do 22, and even though it was a great 22, it was almost look at it, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. That would have been a triple-double right there if he just would have 1 more rebound. So statistically, he's still sound and perfect with a +4 rating, but it's not always the analytics as it is how dynamic the effect is, right? So when Jamal Murray scores for 23, I believe in the second half in the fourth quarter specifically, when he's getting off like that, when you can match fire for fire and says my fire is hotter, then you have an answer. But that's really where the pushback happened. Want to do some post-game analysis, kind of read the body language and can basically determine the next 2 games.
Ron, just quickly, was that the ankle that you caught late, and how's it feeling?
Yeah, I think I stepped on somebody's foot. I think it was maybe Aaron Gordon or one of the guys up underneath the basket, but it'll be fine.
And LeBron, what did you feel like with Denver hitting those 5 straight threes? Like, what's the differences in your coverages and what you're trying to do battling Jokic and not letting them get in there versus what you're giving up on the outside?
Only one of them was uncontested. All of them was great contests. 2 of Maul's threes was right in the face of me and AD. And Michael Porter Jr. one by our bench was right in the face of AR after a transition. They was winning transition. Bruce Brown had one as well with a contest. They made. That was it. The 3-point line is what killed us in the fourth. But I didn't see many breakdowns though.
AD, did they do anything different defensively tonight against you than in game 1? And what do you think it'll take to bounce back in game 3?
No. I got the same looks. A lot of them were just short tonight. So I'll be better.
Not that it's an excuse, but you guys exerted so much energy early, both of you defensively on Nikola Jokic. Did you feel like legs or fatigue factored at all late?
I mean, if you're not tired in the postseason, then everybody's tired.
All right, so just to kind of take that, if you just read body language, there's no one to blame. they miss shots. LeBron's not shooting well from the three-point line, particularly in the second half, and even more specifically or more granularly in the fourth quarter. But here's where it gets interesting. Every great athlete still has one game left in them. And this is why this could be the determining factor. LeBron has a stellar performance, you win game 3. The Lakers have a dynamic performance, you win game 4. All you need is a lucky performance. And the thing about sports, sometimes it's it's better to be lucky than it is to be good. Now you're up 3-2. You can literally turn the series around with momentum. Yes, Joker, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., beast at long, especially Michael Porter Jr., who people slept on, but it's not over for them. All you need is just momentum to shift in their way. I think AD is going to have a spectacular game 3. I think LeBron is going to show you that he's still the king and the GOAT all at the same time. And then, they'll come back game 4. I think it'll be a blowout. Personally, I think the Lakers are going to all step up. Game 5 will be the deciding factor. When they go back to Denver and it's tied up 2-2, and you'll see how this is going to matriculate. If they have to get a road win. They should have got game 1. Game 1 to me was theirs. Game 2 they had a lead, but game 1 they had, to me, the momentum on their side. But game 5 will determine the series. Student loan forgiveness. Now, student loan forgiveness is a hot political issue. It should not be, but at the same time, it's worth discussing. I think there's 2 sides to this coin. I think on the left, there's the side that, we're a developed country. We have the resources to educate our populace, that it would only add to the economy. We could produce more, higher professional jobs, more expertise, more training, that it will lead to a better economic effect. The right's argument is, well, that's great. Who should pay for it all? Is it really the country's job to, supply this higher level of education? Like, who's to say? Like, do we just cut it off at this? Do we only guarantee education through a bachelor's? Do we only guarantee education through a master's? Who's setting the standard for this? And then there's plenty of examples of individuals who do not have collegiate academic degrees and have achieved an amassed amount of fortune. Therefore, if you can do that, do you necessarily need the traditional route of the educational system? And then, how it boils down, if you take out a loan, should it be somebody else's responsibility? There's people who've gone to the military to subsidize their educational efforts so that, that would assist them in obtaining this. It brings in a lot of different views. And I don't think it's about having one particular view, but it is about understanding how both views need to coexist. And the balance really is in the middle. How it should be structured, should it be held against you? How can Americans pay back the debt? But I want to provide these 2 kind of altering sides so that the audience can just be a bit more informed. We're actually going to start with the right and then go to the left.
Good morning to you and good morning, Education Committee. Madam Chair, I want you and America to know that not everybody has gone off the deep end. The only word I can describe this plan is nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts because it's not fair. 2/3 of Americans don't go to college. Why should they subsidize the third that does? And of the third that does, the vast majority pays back their loans or has worked through college to make sure that they have paid their own way. What do you tell my son or others that have joined the military? That's what my son did, joined the military to make sure that he could go through college without encouraged debt. It also makes things worse. It makes things worse. We do this. It makes inflation much worse. Everybody's struggling with trying to keep up with inflation, but it also makes our current university system worse, that it incentivizes our universities to continually focus on degrees that don't provide the return that you would think getting a college degree would give you. And finally, Madam Chair, it's nuts because America can't afford it. I got some breaking news that maybe some people on this committee don't know, and that is we're $33 trillion in debt, struggling to come to an agreement right now on how we're going to address that debt. So the numbers, we still can't clarify exactly what this costs. it's sort of like walking into a store and seeing something you want, but there's no price tag on it. How do you know how much it costs? So whatever it is it costs,
Interesting.
Would it be better to put that money somewhere else?
Interesting. And all right, let's pause. We don't know how much it would cost. I mean, there's estimates. So we have a ball factor. I can't necessarily say that statement was that factual and accurate. But most Americans believe in, if they're going to take out any type of debt, that they are obligatory towards it, that they're responsible for the debt, and it is beholden to them to repay it. Unfortunately, through circumstance and through inflation and through the extreme amount of competitiveness, and as the congressman brought up, there is, the GOP lawmaker brought up, unfortunately, some of the degrees that are pushed really doesn't lead to anything substantial as far as a financial reward at the end of education requirement. So there needs to be a better job in teaching what's actually going to get you hired. The only challenge with that is that the economy and technology shifts every year. 2 years used to be every 10, then it boiled down every 5. So you could have this hot in demand job, and then you become a coder, a software developer, and then all of a sudden they develop technology that can develop its own technological needs, and then you're out, not gunned, but you're out, sourced via technology. So even if you do go to school for whatever in a way that is perceived as a higher income and a more attractive position, that doesn't mean you can't be replaced. So the question boils down to, does the American government owe its citizens anything beyond high school? Is there an obligation for the federal government to support and aid in the development of its citizens and its populace? Can we create a system that, the citizens are contributors in this? Personally, I would like to see a system where, at 18, 19, when you graduate high school, you have to do a year of, to me, non-military, but what I would say governmental service. You have to, come part, not necessarily of the military branches in the Army, the Navy, any of that nature, but in some facet that would actually serve the interest of America. It could be in a non-combatant role, but you'd have to dedicate a year if you wanted to take advantage of that. I would love to see more programs like this in a pipeline so that we can actually build up a citizenry or a citizenship that really understands of shared values and shared community. But there is ambiguity with all that, right? There's always an external weight. There's always things to consider. And you could say, well, hey, it's cool to take that, and I hear you. But what happens when banks fail and the federal government steps in, like Silicon Valley Bank earlier this year, and gives them a bailout? Isn't that the same, basically loan forgiveness or asset forgiveness or bad practice forgiveness? And since we bail out banks all the time, how come banks are bailed out, but we can't bail out the actual borrowers from these banks? That's where it becomes hypocritical. Let me play an excerpt for the left from, I think this is Good Morning Today.
Now to the uncertain fate of more than 40 million student loan borrowers in America. The Supreme Court heard 2 cases yesterday against President Biden's debt relief plan on hold after an appeals court ruling. It would cancel up to $20,000 in student loans for eligible borrowers. And several conservative justices questioned whether the Biden administration overstepped its authority by not first going through Congress. NBC's senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett, is with us now. Laura, you heard the judges yesterday. Any indication on how they're leaning?
So this one is tricky. I think for folks who might be waking up this morning to headlines saying that conservative justices on the court are skeptical of the plan, that's true, but it's not the full story, right? So there's a question about whether the Biden administration had congressional authority.
Regardless of the congressional authority or whatever, it's a very complex issue. I think all Americans, all people of goodwill, forget citizenship, can understand that these issues are not, yes, no, right? They're not left, right. There has to be a unifying thread that says we need an educated base. what is the best way of going about that? And at the same time, how do we create still a competitive nature where it doesn't feel like we're controlling everything, that there's still this free market, free will selection of choice? Isn't that the true nature of democracy? And then there's also this kind of mixed entwinedness of classism, because the truth of the matter is, when education was rolled out in this way, it was never designed for all. It was a way of creating, kind of those that have versus those that do not. When you have access to this and you create equality, that might bother some. And equality might be really the undercurrent of all this. So, I think that's the real pickle here. Can we create a society that is humane, that educates, that puts people first, and at the same time have them take their talents to make this society as a whole better, without necessarily creating financial obligations upon only a select few? Can everybody share in this way? That's going to be the question of the day. My personal feel, I don't see the Biden administration doing anything with this particular subject matter. I don't think that's his focus. And even though he ran on that campaign promise, I think it was just for, political sake, just where, itchy ears, as the Bible says, running away from sound doctrine. At the same time, we can't always write blank checks. I think that is a dangerous precedent, and that's why we're in debt, $33 trillion. There has to be a way that's feasible, that makes sense, that we can progress society and move people forward. And I haven't found a candidate that is really talking about common sense strategy. I say the next round of political theater, which you're about to enter to, congratulations to Brandon Mayer, just got elected 57th mayor of Chicago. If there is an appeal, is because he seems like a common sense voice. Common sense will be the flavor of the day, because we've had extremism, and extremism doesn't work. Common sense legislation, common sense strategy, common sense application is going to be the strategy to win.
That's a question about the merits.
All right, have to give honor. I know this is with a passing moment. This is, Jim Brown ended up dying at the age of 87. Noted Hall of Famer, arguably the best running back ever, played 9 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, won many awards in college football and in the pros, also won awards in lacrosse, known for attending the Ali Summit. When it comes to sports activism period, being a trendsetter, role model, Jim Brown is that person. He did it when it wasn't popular to do it, when it wasn't a social media feed, when you weren't getting likes on the gram, when nobody could share your status. He did it at the cost of his livelihood, and you have to applaud that. So prayers to the family, prayers to the loved ones in Jim Brown's circle. But Jim Brown, I think my first recollection, I started to find out about Jim Brown when I saw the movie Any Given Sunday, and I was like, who is this intense old man? And my dad was like, that's Jim Brown. That's the greatest running back ever. And he was still built in, and he was in his 60s, so Jim Brown is, I think, the standard. And obviously you don't want to put people in a box, but as if I was an athlete, if I said like there's somebody as a character wise who stood for things on and off the field, Jim Brown would be that person. Okay, I got to get into this, and I want you to chime in here. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to comment. I want to do another episode on this. I'm only going to lightly touch upon this because I don't know. To my left or your right, the way you're saying it, you have Eboni Williams, an amazing attorney, amazing TV personality, one of the just smartest people. And then you have Dr. Ayala Vanzant, who is amazing, who is a minister, who is a health healing guru. She is a brand. Dr. Vanzant, has her own space. She's not new to this, true to this. And I just want to hear your thoughts on expectations. I put this as expectations and prideful fantasies. The topic is about finding love and not lowering your standard. The bigotry of low expectation is what Eboni mentions. And so Dr. Vanzant says, would you date a bus driver? Want you to hear your thoughts on this.
We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men in 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society.
I'm gonna pause there. Would you date a bus driver? I understand, and do not attack either or. Ebony is amazing, brilliant. Love to have her on the podcast. She is absolutely brilliant. Buy the book, Bet on Black. Dr. Vanzant is brilliant, amazing. So there's not a choose between the two. I understand having expectations or a standard. If the Lord has allowed you to acquire anything, win anything, earn anything, and it's truly by his grace, because if you take away the myriad factors that affect your abilities to obtain, if you look at it, so even if it was weight loss, the Lord allowed you to afford a gym membership, allowed you to get a personal trainer, allowed you to afford the healthy food, yet you made the discipline, or you exerted discipline, you submitted yourself to a program. But if you could not afford the gym membership, if you could not afford the food, if there was a food desert, would you have had the same results, or at least as quickly? So it's still by God's grace, no matter what you do in life. But I understand when you have accomplished something, you expect their partner to, I guess, match, if that's the criteria. The problem is it's not biblical. Like it's not a thing. Like, to match what though? I mean, I understand, like, if you have a 50-inch vertical and you make it to the NFL, the NBA, does your partner play in the NFL and NBA? Or do they play, the WNBA? And I'm bringing that up because if you go by the criteria that because I have, you should have, the dangerous precedent is that you'll demean someone who has the same character, the same virtues, and the same foundational elements that you can build a happy existence with, all because of their income potential, right? And then you get into levels of income. What does that mean to you? Can you deal with somebody at 30,000, 50,000? Can you deal with somebody at 150? Those conversations, those nuances are dangerous, and they're slippery slopes. I understand you worked hard and you deserve what you want. The Bible says it'll give you the desires of your heart, not against you or against anyone. But I think it can become prideful if you say that, therefore, if you don't have this, you don't qualify. I think that, and I'll just stick with my faith perspective. I think that when it comes to finding the right one, and I thank God for April, shout out to my wife, it's really about, do I feel that God has called me to this person amidst whatever expectations? Because here's the thing, I've lived long enough now that life changes. all it takes is a car accident, a bullet, like all it takes is some traumatic event that will disrupt and distort everything that you have planned. So to have this finite standard might be detrimental. On the flip side, and this is where I'll come to Eboni's defense, it's hard to also tell someone to, therefore, if you have done whatever, just thank God they exist. I think the bigotry of low expectation is a phrase that she used if you watch the rest of the clip. That is slippery. That's what I believe right there. I want to hear your vote. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your comments. Look, I want you on the podcast to discuss this topic right here. I'm only sharing this because I think this is something that has to be unpacked. But I want to talk about just a few things in my next segment, and then we can go from there. But just a quick word from from this video. Hey, what's up? It's CVMK33. Look, I want you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, subscribe here, everywhere, so you can get the latest and greatest of this podcast content. Stay tuned. All right, so, expectations is something else. Rest in peace, Jim Brown. Shout out to a legend right there. Lakers, let's get it together. I want this to go right. I need LeBron to get number 5. I'm rooting for the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. Had a fantastic inauguration. I've been reading about it, watching the highlights, watched the speech. Lot there, a lot to unpack. I think that Chicago has the potential to do a lot of great things. There's a lot of challenges that every city has. But I believe that if he is willing to do the hard work and burn the midnight oil and be not progressive, but I would say I was not aggressive, but responsive in a way that is dynamic. Yes, we need this, and this, but to take a whole picture, to look at what we have, what we're spending, what we're investing in, and to totally shift and to ask and to really do the work of a mayor, and even constitutionally to understand what that is, because maybe there's also a lack of knowledge of what the powers of the mayor's office really are. To partner with the aldermen, to partner with the Congress people, to partner with the alderwomen and aldermen, to partner with the governor, to partner with our senators, to go and seek federal assistance and then utilize that to actually create true structural change. That's going to be the strategy to go forward. But this has been another episode of It Is What It Is podcast. Look, I want y'all to subscribe, YouTube, CVMK. That's all you got to put in YouTube, which is crazy. It's literally 4 letters, CVMK. Instagram, CVMK33. Instagram, CVMK _global. It is what it is _show. I want you to get the best supplements, www. That was a lot of W's. www.cvmkglobal.store. I got with me Superpower. Get your protein today, transform, and all the above. And I believe in you. Look, the summer is here. Need some inspiration so you can get back in the gym. I'm hoping that this one guest comes on, if she's 77. It's going to be an amazing time. And I want you to see that you can age differently. But I'm going to leave you with this so that you know it's for you.
I literally just tried the best pre-workout on the planet. With Superpower pre-workout, you have increased focus and a power boost every single time you work out. It's not only packed with 225 milligrams of caffeine, but it also has citrulline and creatine. It's insane how much energy and focus I had during my workouts. If you're ready to take your workouts to the next level, then ditch your current pre-workout and get the Superpower pre-workout to be your own hero.
All right, y'all, www.cvnkglobal.store. And until next time, guys, thanks.